Okay, in this video I want to talk a little bit about inverse functions and finding inverse functions. And I'm going to show you a quick way to do that. Most inverse functions are really easy to find, and most math teachers never make this clear, so I'm hoping I can give you a quick method. So first, let me talk a little bit about what an inverse function is. An inverse function is a function that undoes another function. So most of you would know that x cubed has an inverse of the cube root of x. A cube root undoes a cube, and a cube undoes a cube root. You can see that here if you look at some numbers. If I were to put in some values for y equals x cubed, negative 1 cubed is 1, 0 cubed is 0, 1 cubed is 1, 2 cubed is 8, 3 cubed is 27. If I then take the results of that first function and I plug them into the second function, it gives me back what I started with. The cube root of 27 is 3. Back to where I started. The cube root of 8 is 2. Back to where I started, etc. So the idea is that inverse functions cancel. So because they cancel and give you back what you started with, you can see that their x and y values have just switched places. And this fact is what most math teachers use to tell students how to find inverse functions. They will say something like, take your original function, switch x and y, and then solve for y. And you can do that, and it works. And sometimes it's the best way to do it. However, if you've got any kind of math sense at all, you should be able to find the inverse function a little bit quicker and do a little bit less writing. So really I'm doing the same thing that I just said. I'm just going to try to make it a little bit shorter. So to do that, I want to look at a couple of examples. So here's an easy example of a function. It's a nice linear function. So if I put in something into this function, some x value, it's going to give me out a y, okay? Now, that y value that's the output of this function is going to be the input for my next function, so I'm going to call it x. And all I really want to do is think what undoes this function, what cancels it out. So this is the quick way to find an inverse. If I want to cancel this out, I take away 5 and I divide by negative 2. So if I want to find this inverse, I take away 5 and I divide by negative 2. That's the inverse. Now you can distribute that negative and you can make that 5 minus x over 2, but really you've done it in one step. It's just, you can just see what it is, okay? The same idea is true if you come down here, another linear function, okay? So we're gonna start and we just wanna figure out what do we do to undo this. So here I would subtract 4 and then multiply by 3. So I subtract 4 and then I multiply by 3. There is my inverse function. Again, you may want to simplify, but it's simple enough, okay? This one's a little bit more complicated, but you're still going to see you can just do it all in your head. It's really easy. We want to find the inverse function. All we have to do is think, what do we do to undo this? So to undo this, I subtract 3. I divide by negative 2, and then I take the cube root. It's really done. Again, I would probably take this negative and do something with it, so I'd probably make this the cube root of 3 minus x over 2. You could even go through and rationalize the denominator. I don't want to do all that. All I want you to see is that you can very quickly go from the function to its inverse. That's the short method. I do want to just add a couple of caveats though. It doesn't always work so easily. If you have a rational function where the variable is in more than one place, you probably can't do that in your head. I can't, okay? And it also won't help you to know if you need to restrict the domain. But it'll save you a lot of time, and it's a whole lot easier to just look and say, oh, this is what I do to undo the function, and that's my inverse.